Baroque. What is the Baroque? It is a cultural and artistic movement that developed in Europe and its American colonies between the late 16th and early 18th centuries. It was characterized by the triumph of ornamentation, word games, the pursuit of emotion and aesthetic pleasure. Unlike the Renaissance, it is characterized by the idea of disappointment and pessimism. While it is characterized by superficial realism, rich and intense colors, and strong lights and shadows. Baroque painters. Caravaggio. Michelangelo Merisi da Caravaggio, known as Caravaggio, was an Italian painter, active in Rome, Naples, Malta, and Sicily between 1593 and 1610. Rembrandt. Rembrandt Herman Zoon van Rijn, better known as Rembrandt, was a Dutch painter and printmaker. The history of art considers him one of the greatest Baroque masters of painting and engraving, the most important artist in the history of the Netherlands. Rubens. Pedro Pablo Rubens, was a Baroque painter of the Flemish school. His exuberant style emphasizes dynamism, color and sensuality. Its main influences come from the art of ancient Greece, ancient Rome and Renaissance painting, especially Leonardo da Vinci. Diego Velázquez. Diego Velázquez was the most important Spanish Baroque painter of the group because he treated all genres with equal excellence: religious, mythological, portraits, historical, landscapes, still lifes, etc. artworks. Rembrandt. Among his most recognized works are The Night Watch. The origin of this title arises from a misinterpretation, due to the fact that the painting was so deteriorated and darkened by the oxidation of the varnish and accumulated dirt, that its figures were almost indistinguishable, and it looked like a night scene. After its restoration in 1947, when this darkened varnish was removed, it was discovered that the title did not correspond to reality, since the action does not take place at night but during the day, inside a dimly lit gate that it reaches a powerful beam of light that intensely illuminates the characters involved in the composition. The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. The painting shows one of the first miracles of Jesus, specifically the one narrated in the Gospel of St. Mark, chapter 4, when Jesus calmed the waters in a storm on Lake Galilee. It is the only marina of the great Dutch painter. It is a youth work in which Rembrandt portrays himself as one of the 14 people who occupied the boat, specifically the one holding the mast rope and looking at the viewer. Rubens. His works, for the most part, were based on iconic moments from the Bible such as the Assumption of the Virgin Mary. It is the belief that the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ, having completed the course of her earthly life, was taken body and soul to heaven. It should not be confused with the Ascension, which refers to Jesus Christ himself. The elevation of the cross. The work shows a clear influence of the Italian Renaissance and of Baroque artists such as Caravaggio, Tintoretto and Michelangelo. The central panel shows the tension between the crowd of muscular men trying to lift the cross and the seemingly unbearable weight of Christ on the cross. Caravaggio. His most important works are The Vocation of Saint Matthew, 1600. This masterpiece represents the moment when Jesus inspired Matthew to follow him. Standing next to St. Peter, Jesus points to Matthew, who is sitting at a table with 4 other men. Was inspired by the real world in most of his art, anchoring the biblical scene in a modern reality. Baccho, 1595. Bacchus was the Roman name of Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, madness and ecstasy. Here, Caravaggio portrays him as a 17th century Italian teenager, David with the head of Goliath, 1609. The theme of beheading is common in the work of Caravaggio. In David with the head of Goliath, he presents an extremely dramatic play, in which David is not shown celebrating his victory over the giant, but rather lost in his thoughts, perhaps reflecting on their curious biblical connection and the bond with their adversary. Diego Velázquez. His most important work was Las Meninas. It is the portrait of the royal family staged in the painter's own work.